We are on the road to, or at least one of our reporters on the road here to the nation's capital, with a group of climate change activists preparing for a march on Washington today.
Now, this bus, one of hundreds, headed to Washington from all over the country to carry that message to President Trump. Coming up, we'll have more about that message.
CNN correspondent Kaylee Hartung is on one of the buses coming down to D.C. from New York. Kaylee, good morning to you, and set the scene for us.
Well, good morning to you both from the New Jersey Turnpike. Now, this bus left Harlem a little more than 30 minutes ago. We got a solid 4 hours to go on this ride to Washington. As you said, buses traveling there from all over the country, as far as Kansas, even North Dakota, to deliver a message to President Trump about the importance of climate change. Now, the folks on this bus, members and allies of the community organization We Act, run out of Harlem. We have teachers, community organizers, parents, and concerned citizens like Michelle Holmes with us. Michelle, what message do you want to deliver to Washington today?
Climate change is here to stay. We as people who are suffering the impact of climate change need to change what we've done. We need to soften the impact. We need to stop using certain products that have ruined the ozone layer. We need to get it together, and we need to let our current administration know climate change is here to stay. If we want this planet to be here for generations to come, we need to fix it now.
100 days into the Trump administration, what is your reaction to the attention you've seen that administration pay to climate change?
That administration acts as if it doesn't exist. They're living in a bubble. People like myself in communities that have experienced devastating effects from superstorms, storms that are inevitable. They're coming more and more. We experience firsthand what happens, whereas this administration, they live in castles, basically. They don't experience anything that we do, so they don't believe it exists.
Thank you, Michelle.
Well, you're welcome.
All right, Kaylee, thanks. There on the bus coming down from New York. You're on the New Jersey Turnpike coming here to D.C. Thank you so much.
These folks were up before dawn in a thunderstorm, ready to load buses in Harlem to make the trip to Washington. Coming up, we'll tell you more about the message they want to deliver to President Trump.
He's going to be on live television.
CNN correspondent Kaylee Hartung is on one of those buses heading to D.C. from New York. So what are people there on the bus saying? They're getting to know each other, getting to know you?
Well, Victor, Christy, we're about halfway through that trip to Washington just outside of Philadelphia. And right now, I'll tell you, the bus is a little quiet after an early morning wake-up call in the rain to board these buses around 6 a.m. in Harlem. The youngest marcher on this bus, just 8 years old, I believe. Oh, I think she's awoken from a nap back there. But others, like this fellow over here, really saving their energy up for the march on Washington. But Juan Rosa, he's wide awake. Juan, why is it important to you to be a part of today's march?
Yeah, so we're going to Washington today because we are frontline communities. Washington Heights, Harlem, the Bronx. We're communities where people don't have the resources to escape if we have flooding or other issues caused by climate change. And we have an administration that is hostile to the science behind global warming, climate change, and hostile to the regulations that were put in place to protect us from those effects. And we're going today to send a message that we are under threat and that we need action from our policymakers and our elected officials.
Thank you, Juan. Folks, quiet now, Victor and Christy, but ready with passion to bring it to Washington.
No doubt about it. All righty. Kaylee Hartung, thank you so much.
I feel bad for the guy who was just on
I want to bring in now CNN's Kaylee Hartung. She has just arrived, rather, in D.C. with a bus full of protesters. She was actually riding on that bus as well from New York. And CNN's Brian Todd is at the starting point of that march. So, Kaylee, let me go to you first. What are you hearing from the many people who took the journey to come here to the nation's capital?
Well, Frederica, hundreds of buses are in the process of unloading right now outside of RFK Stadium. As you see this flow of people behind me, they are making their way to the D.C. Metro, next stop being the U.S. Capitol, where this march will begin. Now, folks are making this trip from as far as Kansas, even North Dakota. I've seen a lot of people from the Northeast in the process of this unfiling behind me. But of the folks I was on the bus with coming out of Harlem, there was one man who summed up today to say it's an opportunity to show the world that people here can come together. Because as he said, the environment is one issue where gender, ace, and rage don't matter. He wants that message to be delivered to President Trump as they try to explain to him, make him understand how important they believe this issue is.
And Brian, you've been talking to people right there at the march as well, many of the leaders, and what have they been saying? Thank you so much, Kaylee and Brian. Appreciate it. Very eclectic crowd, colorful there, and on a steamy hot day, almost like summer-like. All right, coming up, President Trump spoke of